What's up, Ravens fans? It's time to hear from you guys in our weekly Ravens Mailbag segment, and for some reason, the Mailbag is a much happier place this week. The questions are a little more cheery after the big win over the Raiders, so let's jump right into it. This first question comes from the King Dextro, and the question is, what's the key to keep the offensive line's great performance?
Well, I don't know that there's one specific key. I think what helped the offensive line is that they were starting to build a little continuity there. You know, they had a couple of games playing together, and I know that a couple of games isn't a lot, but for how many injuries this offensive line has suffered, that's a lot. So I think that was starting to help. Now, obviously, Matthew Skura, he suffered a knee injury. He could miss some time. That's going to shake things up a little bit. Jermaine Illuminor is probably the guy that's going to get the start there. Could see Tony Bergstrom, but either one of those guys, both of them have played on this offensive line previously. Jermaine was kind of splitting the role with Skura a little bit. So at least they have some comfort level that will help them continue their success. I thought another interesting point that John Harbaugh made too was that they kind of changed the blocking scheme throughout the game. They kind of shifted things around, kept the Oakland Raiders on their toes, and I would expect them to continue that. You know, it's more of an offensive approach as opposed to just defensive blocking. And lastly, offensive linemen love run blocking. So if the Ravens can keep running the ball, they can get leads, keep running, that's going to help the offensive line.
In terms of the scheme thing that you're talking about, what they did consistently throughout the game, Nick Boyle was almost like an extra offensive lineman for a lot of the game. He was in there to double team Khalil Mack throughout a lot of that game, and it made a big difference. So, all right, the next question, this one's from Johnny Hyduke, and the question is, a lot of pundits will say this game was an aberration. Do you think that this game will help jumpstart Mike Wallace along with the rest of the offense? Well, there's a lot of haters out there that are going to say it's an aberration. That's just the way it goes. But yeah, I do think that this could help jumpstart the offense, and I think that the offensive line is a big piece of that. They played better. I think that they will be able to continue to do that. And what we saw through the first month of the season, the offensive line was never really in sync with each other. Joe wasn't in sync with the offensive line, which he wasn't then in sync with the receivers. Nothing was really in rhythm. Finally, the rhythm seemed to connect. And with these big passes, all of a sudden it takes one. Then you saw it again in the second half. They hit another one. I think that Mike Wallace has been, like he always says, he wants the ball. He's going to want the ball. He's going to die wanting the ball. And that's just the way that he is. And I do think that this could be a jump start for this offense, the big plays, and really it's a good sign of, I think, for things to come.
Mike Wallace showed a little bit of it in the Steelers game, caught a touchdown and started to kind of get on track. Then you saw that roll into the second game. But the bigger jump start, how about Rashad Perryman?
Yeah.
Clutch catch, I think that could be huge for him to get him going a little bit.
Yeah, confidence booster for sure.
Exactly. Our last question comes from Shazam933, and the question is, with Willie Henry's great performance Sunday, could he be promoted to starting defensive end or have his role increased? Yeah, I think that Willie Henry's playing some really good football right now. Now, obviously, when Brandon Williams comes back, he's going to take over that role, you know. Sorry, Willie, but you're not bumping Brandon from the starting lineup. But Willie Henry's showing something. I think even when Brandon does come back, Willie has probably earned a few more snaps in pass rushing situations. If nothing else, I think he's proven that he shouldn't be a game day scratch. Now, it's tough because your defensive line is really deep. Who is a scratch? Maybe it's Carl Davis if he's a little banged up or whatnot. But Willie Henry has emerged. So I think that he has kind of earned himself a few more roles.
Yeah, you know, one thing that you always talk about whenever somebody gets hurt is the next man up. And sometimes it sounds cliche, but sometimes someone goes out there and impresses you like Willie Henry has, and I think that's a good sign for this defense. So that does it for this week's Ravens Mailbag. But as always, thanks for listening. Send in your questions every single week, and have a great rest of your day.